You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right. This is a springtime discussion that's hit the minds. Of course, I'll tell you it's just me alone, but that's why. I troubleshoot a lot of things for the Almighty, and I don't have an answer for you, but I have some considerations. Science is telling us that young people are growing up faster, at least sexually. I do believe we're doing well considered what even physiologically what we're seeing. They're, I don't want to insult anybody, but they're saying genitalia is even larger, and that is a sign of sexual health. Could be nutrition. I don't know. It could be the measles shot. I don't know. So we're not only seeing attitudes in that direction, we're seeing physiological changes. The males, the women, the physical features are enhanced. I believe what Erica Kirk says, but unfortunately, sexuality is starting earlier. But I believe what she said. I think people should marry and then go through college together, marry. If they go to college, whatever they do at 18. There are times in history when young people were married younger. So I'm sure we've dealt with this in history. Now, this is really where the quandary is. It isn't just that happening, that we have differing societies. It isn't just church, where there are ethical requirements, moralistic requirements. And we can't just write that off and go, well, they're incorrect because you are now feeling like you want sex or having a sexual urge. So the young people are stuck between a rock and a hard place. A lot of times the churches are lying about their successes. What happens sometimes when we go for the church view, we leave out certain knowledge. And if a young man starts touching on your daughter, she feels something. And he's able to get her for 12 hours or whatever. And the next thing you know, she comes to you, she's pregnant, or she doesn't come to you, she's pregnant, and she's afraid to come to you. And what happens? She aborts the baby, and then she's public enemy number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Personally aborts the baby. I'm sure that's happened more than we discover. Again, there's a lie about certain successes. The conservative view sounds good, but like the Villages, they're very conservative in Florida. But what also are they? They're one of the highest STD rates for any community in Florida itself, that be maybe even the United States. So does the conservative view actually happen there? No. And they go to church and everything else. And I'm not condemning them. I'm simply helping you come to grips with the truth. That sounds familiar. The truth equals the truth. Now, in history, we dealt with a situation And in the 70s, sexual discovery increased, but what also increased? Something called HIV, AIDS. So we have people like Dr. Ruth come out and make suggestions, and they don't necessarily fit the church. That's pretty weird. How about that sign? Don't be caught dead without it, and then the cross pops up. Turn to the one who loves you most, Jesus Christ. Well, in this context, I don't know if we want to bring that up. They got a lit up. That's not really a billboard. It's just like an LED board. It has Christian stuff on it. It has other stuff from law firms and stuff. But maybe we do want to turn to it, Yeshua says. Well, we have to give them tools to make it. And those tools do not always fit with conservative values and conservative church values. But what happens? The person is outside. What I say is, do not have sex before you're married at all costs. But if you're on your way to marriage and it happens, don't kill yourself over it. But don't do it unless you're on your way to marriage. And I mean, be sure. Because there's guys that will use that. There's gals. I was seduced by a woman. I wasn't thinking about having sex. I felt obligated. So I know, again, I've had enough experience, which is very little really, but to know what you're going through when you feel obligated. So again, that was the science went through the road. You know, everybody gets quiet in the car. So again, I'm nowhere where I can draft anything that would reach everybody. I mean, inside, maybe the Lord can touch them. And I just have a sneaking suspicion that it's happening younger and everybody's in denial. So like I said, 18 is probably, you've held off for a few years, at least. Well, again, it's more of I'm trying to explain, it's more of a physiological issue than it is an ethical issue, but it involves ethical structures within our communities. I'm not telling everybody to go out and have sex. Next FBI and the PI and the exploited children people be telling you, I'm telling you that everybody should have sex with kids. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have to address the issues with your children, especially around adults also. A lot of these young people that are running off with like 14 years old. And I look at her, I'm like, she ain't 14, you lying. I feel bad for that young lady from Whitehall, but she wasn't prepared. And maybe her parents thought that, I mean, I maybe wouldn't have thought. And if I was that kid's parent, I'd have prepared her because she looks like she's ready, right, to be plucked from our home. Well, if you now the counselor, she's going to get counseling, I imagine. I'm a hope. I mean, I don't know how people are today; they're pretty reckless, but she should receive some sort of counseling. With most of it should be done by could be done by the parents, but somebody needs to talk to her about what she's feeling and how to, what are you feeling? What did you? Because she was probably she was. It's just like an adult. When adults want sex, one tries to get the other one turned on. and she's human, and she has, it's physiological. I do not believe that I was in school with 14-year-olds that looked like her. Could be makeup, but I could be wrong, or I could be right, I guess. And I have read on the issue, because debate people would bring kids around, and I'm like, something ain't right here. And I started reading to find out that they are sexual, and that these kids should not be confronted with trying to debate an adult. Right. Which may be the whole reason why it happened. Well, all it takes is a certain number of young people being opened up to sexuality. And again, pornography exists and all that, so I understand that part also. But I'm believing it's physiological. Oh, I told them, I spoke out. I said, don't bring your kids around here and try to bait me. They're the ones having sex, not me. Or having at least sexual fantasies. Again, that's generally what starts first, and then that's what a pedophile will take advantage of. That's what a young boy will take advantage of with a schoolmate. So again, it'd be interesting to find out how she was, if she was prepared at all for that moment, to understand what she might be feeling and how to handle it. Again, because of the life and death situations that we were seeing in the 70s and late 70s, early 80s, Dr. Ruth and others came up with methods that would satiate those issues. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you that you should tell your children to do that, but you got to figure it out. You have to give them some sort of education that helps them deal with their emotions and with that increased growth and physiology where they're experiencing those thoughts at a younger age. So again, when we look at it, instead of, okay, you get it at 16, and by 18, you find some women, a woman or a man, a boy, whatever you want to call yourselves at that age, and you have an experience. Marriage is the best. But they held off at least through high school, and you didn't have to, you have to go to church with a big belly. I was in a school, because it comes back to being an abused child, but I was put into a school at a certain point, and it was, I was, there's nothing wrong with my intelligence or my emotional stability. It was pretty much like every person that's ever asked me questions, as far as a counselor always says, it's not about you. I didn't figure it out when I was younger because I didn't know what it meant. It's everyone else. It's not about you. So I see, if I go to even the last one I went to, if I go to a counselor, they go, it's not about you. We got to provide you methods to stop these people. And again, that's the point. It's not about your daughter. It's not about your son. But we got to figure out how to make it work. But now, if they're sexual at 10, 12 years old or having those emotions, now you got to hold off for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And again, don't tell me about your one daughter who did that. She's amazing. And she may have the physiology of a mosquito and the sex drive of a mosquito. Well, actually, mosquitoes might have a big sex drive. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is people are different. It's physiological. Don't make your daughter feel bad if she has certain thoughts. Again, a lot of churches have matured and they say, it's not bad to have thoughts, just don't act on them. And that's important also. But we're dealing with something that could cause the reaction to insufficient education to abduction is one. Again, some of these kids are willingly going because they believe they're in a relationship. And there again, that particular emotion generally wouldn't happen, especially with somebody much older, until they were. When I was a kid, yeah, I was just thinking about it earlier. There was this girl, her name was Kathy, and I'm just fly on a wall. But we were, I don't remember when it was. She was in my English class. She's a very good looking woman, young woman. And she, I have a poor self image, so I didn't even know I had a chance. But yeah, I imagine, I probably did have a chance. At being, I'm not talking about sex. And it could have happened if we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I don't know. But I've stopped myself. I was a good kid. As far as I would go would be first base, and that's it. That's just, making out. So it wasn't all that much. So don't let them tell you, oh yeah, every day it was a different girl. First base, but like 365 days a year. No, it wasn't that. But she was talking about her older boyfriend. It was actually an illegal, I think 11th grade. And it was actually an illegal relationship. But she's like the only one I think that. But now I guess it's happening a lot more. Oh, Kathy was a bad girl. Your name was White, Kathy White, I think. But she was a good-looking young lady, I'll tell you that. But her boyfriend was like 22 or something like that. Or probably like 16 or something. But what I'm thinking is it's happening more, and the risk is greater. And again, we're not busting everybody, and when a young girl self aborts a child, uh, we're not catching all that either. I know it's Shabbat. If I miss it, that's what happens. I try to get out earlier, but I couldn't. But I should be back home in time. And drop some Amazon off. Got to get it out. And I'll tell you right now, when I was in the workplace, I'm trying to be sensitive about it. There were women that had husbands and they were taken care of well, and it showed. They were balanced. There were women who were single at an age where it's difficult to be single as a woman, and they were horrible. And they got married and they were fine. So again, there's a psychological thing that goes along with it. That if, and again, you may not have a sex drive, but the next person could have a sex drive more than anybody ever existed on the planet and not be mentally ill. They just need to find somebody and get married. But if you have a sex drive and it's not taken care of, that could cause psychological issues. And of course, when men get older, physiological issues. Again, blocking anybody from any relationship, especially lying about them being dangerous, is demonic, satanic, and worse. And it's going on. I don't know at what level it's going on. I know the deep state used it as a tool of torture and a tool of attempt to manipulate somebody into criminal sexuality. Well, yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out what they. And again, 14 years old. Who? I mean, now maybe I know, but when I was raising a kid, I wouldn't think a kid would be. I think my daughters, I would have said something 14. I think my older daughter was 12 when it all came crashing down thanks to the deep state. But well, they made my wife overconfident all the way through it. Again, that's why I had to leave. It just wasn't going to work. And that overconfidence led to, horrific behavior and fabrications and all sorts of things. Well, again, if you tell your daughter about sexuality, if you explain how it's going to work on her mind when a young man comes along, and especially, if that young man happens to be a little bit older, like in his early 20s, that, they may be able to understand it. And you have to actually tell them, said, look, your mind's going to tell you this is it. This is where you need to be. And it could actually be that person possessing her, which you don't have to get in that deep and discuss metaphysics. Yeah, if I was her father, I would think she looked rather mature and would have really prepared her for something like that. Maybe they did. I don't know. But again, if it's typical church, you know, it's kind of, it lacks any reality. And again, you could say watching somebody online, but there's other ways too. And young people, whether they're sexual or not, have routinely been able to thwart the parents' ability to protect the child from a lot of different things. Again, it comes down to metaphysics, but well, I don't think she was prepared, and maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of these cases, I don't think they're prepared to deal with the emotions they feel when they're confronted with those situations. And again, if they're maturing faster, a child sitting at 14 may be compared to a child that's 16 to 18 years ago, or maybe even further along. So again, not to blame the child or the times we live in. It could be a physiological change. There's concerns. I mean, it's out there psychologically, or not psychologically, psychically. It's out there, and for them, psychologically, they're in distress. They're conflicted. So the best advice I could always give, again, how to is the, I guess, the devil in the details. Is don't have sex till you get married, and if worse comes to worse, and you're 6 months away from marriage, and you can't wait any longer. I mean, don't beat yourself up if it happens, and don't beat yourself up anyway. Most people that have concerns about that were taken advantage of in a sexual situation. Their moment of weakness, quote unquote. But what is a weakness? You can explain to your children because they're maturing faster theoretically. I know it's not every, but what's a moment of weakness? How does that happen? What should you do in your moment of weakness so that you don't get to that point? But again, because parents don't seem to answer or maybe unwilling to answer their questions. Maybe the church can answer their questions because they try to stay within such a tight framework. Well, because that's what it was for the young lady. She had a moment. I think she was willingly there. I'm not sure, but she had a moment of weakness, but she wasn't ready for it. Again, what generally what a girl is when she's 14. But again, that could have been a student at her school also, by what I'm reading. Didn't have to be an adult. Again, I accidentally beeped the horn, which means the vehicle agrees. Nissan agrees. But actually, it's touchdown. And it could have been worse if it was a kid at her school, because she could have went to the level, as far as getting pregnant. And again, we don't know if she's going to get pregnant. I don't know what exactly happened. I think there was a sexual charge. So again, there's a lot to talk about. And again, what happens is when you were a kid, generally maybe you didn't have to deal with it, so you don't know to deal with it. But if you read, again, I probably wouldn't have done it unless they brought these kids around. I'm like, what's this? Something don't seem right with these kids. So again, I think part of it is providing more information about emotions. And if a man is trying to get you, or a young man is trying to get you, that's what they do sometimes when they're doing the wrong thing. Well, if you approach it from the idea that that young person has a valid emotion when they're being manipulated, then they might know how to defend against it, instead of feeling like they're part of that emotion. I had a friend who was just, it didn't matter who she was. He ended up having a good life and a wonderful wife and all that, but you know, no, he mustn't have done many good deeds because he went unpunished. So I know what young men do. Not that I engaged in it myself. More respectful of the recompense. I credit to Hashem. Hashem tried to keep my life as well as he could, but again, planet's evil. So again, if the will against your daughter, if there's a will against your daughter, that could just happen. They don't even have to will that; they can just be jealous of your daughter. So if his daughter had men, or not men, young men, not even young men, boys interested in her, sometimes young girls are evil. Or if she even ignored a young man, they could have cast a spell on her. It happens. Young people can cast spells. I'm telling you right now. I'm sure a girl cast a spell on me in like 5th grade or something. I don't know what you look at me like crazy. Northeast Philadelphia, Solace Cohen. All right, stay peaceful. Praise God, and all to do. Praise God.